So the day started with a report that Felipe Coutinho was going to be involved in the first team this season. Unfortunately, as I watched this friendly match, I could not get that out of my head. It's obvious that Barcelona are having trouble getting rid of players, and while some may be in the stands, like as Umtiti might be expected to be if he sticks around the club, there are going to be players that will be playing over the youngsters that I know a lot of us would rather see. But I guess we can worry about that in a few weeks, because for now, let's talk about 5 things we learned from this friendly win against Stuttgart. 1, and this is probably the easy one, the intensity was certainly increased from that against Nastic as well as Girona. With just 3 matches to go before the season begins, and the last one of those being the Gamper Trophy against Juventus in just about 2 weeks, it shouldn't be surprising that the ball was moving quicker, and the players, especially on the defensive end, desired and wanted it a bit more. And winning 3-0 is comfortable enough, but Stuttgart, to their credit, also did, with this being their last preseason friendly, challenge Barcelona well throughout the match. 2, Koeman isn't necessarily dead set on the positioning of Memphis Depay or Antoine Griezmann. This time around, Griezmann was playing more as a false 9 and Memphis would come in on that left wing and then drift in behind. Just like against Girona, they didn't stay static, with Antoine Griezmann sometimes shifting out to the left and Memphis into the middle, with Yusuf Demir always staying out to the right. And this is almost a 2-for-1 of things we learned, but I also thought it was really telling about how comfortable Frenkie de Jong was to try to look for long balls over the top of Memphis Depay. Now for the second straight game, he's been willing to not necessarily receive the ball, but to make those runs in behind the defense time and time again until he finally gets it. And that's what leads to the first goal, Frenkie de Jong up over the top. And Memphis still did have a bit to do, but he was able to deliver the goal. And then on the second goal of the game, Memphis is the one who drops in. Griezmann comes on the overlap, and Yusuf Demir is there for the tap-in goal. 3, the Coutinho news is even weirder because a few hours later, Nico Gonzalez and Gavi, I think Gavi more importantly, start in the 3rd preseason friendly. And with that news and with Gavi starting in the midfield, there is some cognitive dissonance to that news. I think they'll get some appearances this season, regardless of age. Especially Gavi, his positioning is exactly what Koeman wants for that position. Where Coutinho, I still have the same questions. Where he best fits. He works best as a number 10 underneath a number 9. Gavi is an interior. He's an interior as Barcelona's academy, as La Masia so often has produced. That's the kind of interior that Gavi is. He has his head on a swivel, moves the ball quickly laterally, looking for those passes vertically, and I think his positioning as well as defensively, where he made that cutout as well. Gavi has earned himself some minutes this season. And so to think that whether it's Pjanic who can't move, whether it's Coutinho who can't move, it's odd to me that Gavi's going to deserve minutes, and I wonder where he's going to get them from. And you could say the 3rd goal scorer, Riqui Puig, same thing. Alex Caiado doesn't even feature in this game. There are so many youngsters who deserve minutes, and you still might have Coutinho and Pjanic still floating around that first team picture. To start this match, I did think Gavi looked a little less assured than he did against Girona, but he quickly, within 20 minutes, found that game. And he was moving the ball quickly, understanding the increased pressure that Stuttgart were bringing that Girona weren't. And if he's going to figure out defenses and figure out his opposition as quickly as he did in this match today, look out. 4, Dest is the backup at left back, and Sergio Roberto will be relied on at right back. At this point, after 6 years, Sergio Roberto at right back is no longer an experiment. That's something that Koeman has showed that he might go with instead of Alejandro Balde, and I think it was telling that he did not feature in this 3rd preseason friendly. For Sergio Roberto, I think he might see more time in midfield, but as I just said in the last one, where are all those midfield minutes going to come from if you're playing Pedri and De Jong and Busquets? Even Busquets taking a more limited role. Those 2 other interior, Pedri and De Jong, that is a lot of minutes. And I just don't know how they're going to get enough minutes for everybody to go around, even if you discarded Caiado from that position, even if you discarded Riqui Puig. So for Roberto to get some minutes there, it's going to be tough going. And then a right back, 3rd on that depth chart. I was a little more worried on the other side from what I saw from Dest. Yes, he did feature there for the first team last year. He's featured there for the U.S. men's national team, and he's been okay, but you can clearly see he's so much better on the right. So it does make me a little uncomfortable not to have Dest playing in his most comfortable position, knowing what he can do on that right side. Because on the left, I think he was easily getting in his head that he didn't want to cross with his left foot. He's not comfortable in doing that. He would have to cut it back and then cross with his right. So he wasn't making those runs with as much gusto as he normally did, and you could see that. And I think not only did Koeman notice that, but it's telling that once Alba came on to left back, Roberto stayed on the field, moved to center midfielder, and then Dest moved back to right back, almost to say, hey, finish the game, get a run out, and just play where you're comfortable, because that left back thing, I think Koeman might not be so sure about it either. And lastly, this is a little bit of bad news. I love Nico Gonzalez, but I do think that he needs a bit more polishing before he's going to make an impact with the first team. He was leagues better than he was against Girona, and even this match with his decision-making, his positioning, it was all better. But the speed of those decisions, the speed of him getting into that spot he needs to be to receive the ball, and then when he delivers that ball, it just wasn't happening as quick as he needs to play in the first team. Even when Busquets came on, he got that yellow card. I'm not sure if a card was ever given out for obviously cutting out that counterattack. And you could see the issues with Busquets aren't going to be solved this season, getting caught on the counterattack. And I do think Nico, just physically, might be a little bit better at cutting out those counters before they even begin. But that said, on the offensive side of things, Barcelona's flow, their rhythm, their pace, they want to control possession. And if teams in the Liga, as they've done to Busquets before, man-mark Nico, I am worried at the current juncture that he just isn't quick enough in that decision-making not to be man-marked out of a game completely. And it's not about comparing Gonzalez to Busquets, because Nico certainly is years behind Busquets if he can ever reach that. We're just looking for a backup for the legend in Busquets. And a few things are asked of that position, the pivot at Barcelona, that even De Jong doesn't do. It requires you to break some lines. It requires you to be always in the right position. Even if Busquets physically can't cut out the counter, you always have to be in the right position to prepare to cut out that counter attack. As I said, you need to keep the ball moving as well and keep Barcelona in possession with purpose. And that does take always making the right decision. Always making the right decision. And I just don't think Nico is just there yet. I'm hoping to see a bit more from him. And hey, he might just be, as he was only 3 months away from playing the pivot with Barca B to now being in the first team, he might only be 2 to 3 months away with Barca B, getting his feet wet again, getting some good form in that third division, and then popping right back up to the first team. So it could be 1 or 2 appearances for Nico this season, or it could be 8 to 14. I'm not sure yet, but I do think he needs a bit more polishing, and I'm excited to see what he could do against Red Bull Salzburg. Before we go, I do want to mention Yusuf Demir. He played all 90 minutes, got the goal, and unlike Nico and Gavi, I wasn't really watching for how comfortable he was. He clearly, as he showed in 2 years with Rapid Vienna, is a first-team talent, but it goes back to what I began these 5 things we learned with. With the Coutinho news and even Callado not appearing in this first-team friendly, I'm not sure where those minutes for Demir are going to come. He's playing in that position because Messi is going to play 90 minutes on that right wing, game in and game out. So on the occasional Copa del Rey match, yes, we'll probably see Demir get the start, but I'm not sure where the other first team minutes for him are going to come. Unlike Nico, whose position is not to say dire, but it's a bit desperate that we get him along just because of where he's needed in that rotation. And then Gavi might just have broken himself in on talent alone. But for Demir, I could see him only making a few appearances because there are no minutes available, and just the sheer number of bodies in front of him make it impossible for him to feature. So there you have it, 5 things we learned, plus 1 extra about Yusuf Demir, I guess. So yeah, 6 things we learned. Anyway, I'm not going to be doing this, as you saw against Girona, for every match. I will be back on the Twitch stream for FC Barcelona, so that will keep me busy both the day before matches and on match day. But I'm going to continue to try to have as much YouTube content here for this audience, and I always appreciate the help. So make sure you give us a like, subscribe, and all the rest of that. Share, you know what to do. Until next time, Forza Barca.